Alright, so what's up guys? Today I wanted to make a slightly different video. I'm going to continue to talk about just art books on the channel in general, but I just wanted to talk about more about a topic that's in, basically all drawing books. Well, most of them, when it pertaining to the figure. I'm going to be talking about drawing heads, right? I feel like this topic is so, I'm starting to find my way with drawing heads, right? So I'm starting to find my way with drawing heads now. So, I was sort of looking for, up until this point, the thing I was in search of is sort of a head drawing method that applies to the type of art that I want to do, which is like illustration and like head invention and things like that, or just figure invention in general. That's where I wanted to take my head drawing and things. That's the direction I wanted to go into. Try to stay more representational, but not too much caught up in detail. Just being able to convey the face and the emotion. And I also love, the detail in it, but not, the ultra realistic detail. So I wanted to talk about a few books today, just briefly. But the first book that I want to talk about, this book right here, the Michael Hampton book, figure drawing, design, invention. I'm sure if you look on YouTube, there's a few people making content about this book, but I wanted to just focus on the head drawing for today. And this is maybe right now is one of my favorites on drawing heads, just because of how simplified and generic it is. And I don't know how that would sound to someone, but it's literally like, it's generic because you can build from this. You can build, and I'm gonna pull out the Loomis book too, but I feel like the Loomis book, it only displays like types, like a certain type of face. Even when the types are, sort of bended and rearranged, it's still sort of like in that same vein, like in the same type, right? So I like the Michael Hampton book just because it's not really sticking to a type. It's sort of like generic. So, even with the side plan and everything, it just breaks down into things. Even with the ears, everything just sort of stays, more or less generic, which I like because you can build up from it. So this is a book that I would recommend, especially if you are just trying to find just like a more simpler way to get into head drawing, because it can get very complicated when you look at them books. But this is, I feel like, a good focus to start with. All right. So I want to talk about that book. I want to do this quickly because I wanted to actually draw some, a head and some faces before, the video becomes too long. But this is, y'all probably already know about this book, the Andrew Loomis Drawing the Head and Hands. I'm sure it's been mentioned so much by so many popular artists as like, something that was very influential. But this is sort of what I'm talking about, right? So there's, obviously these are different shapes, different types of the head. But like I said, it's sort of, I feel like it's a little limited for me, right? When it comes to, I like the construction, I feel like construction is key whenever you're trying to draw new heads. But just the types that are in this book is just a little bit not really the type of, direction I'm trying to go into. I'm trying to get into more, it's just, I just wanted to draw a different type of face and different type of features. I know you can sort of, when you're studying construction, you can sort of bend and twist it, but I feel like, especially when you're looking into art books, if you don't really like the illustrations necessarily that are in it, or you don't want to replicate the illustrations that are in it, or you just don't really like the style too much, you shouldn't feel bad about that. But you should still, I feel like even me going through a book like this, I can still grasp just key information from it. definitely could just grab, you know, even with these sort of ideas with the ball for the cranial mass sliced off at the sides. It's really good. You know, it's really good for drawing the head in different, you know, from different angles. But yeah, but to me, it's just, I just didn't like the types. And then even on the skull is pretty, like, even the illustrations on here and the explanation for the bone structure of the face is a little too brief for me. I feel like it should go in a little deeper explaining it, because literally the face, the landmarks of the skull are literally what changes the shape of the face, right? So another thing that I really appreciate about this book is the plano, these sort of illustrations, and then the head in perspective. These probably are my two favorite pages, just the plano and the perspective, drawing the head in perspective. I feel like, because those are very important, especially when you're doing illustration, or just, you know, drawing figures from your imagination, or, you know, coming up with new characters and things. But, you know, there's people have talked about this book extensively, but, you know, this is another book for head drawing. A book that I don't really see a lot, Burne Hogarth, dynamic. He does have a book on drawing the head. Right, and this is more of the direction that I would want to go into with drawing the head. It's sort of just understanding those masses and those basic shapes of the face, and just being able to flip and turn them in any sort of direction, not necessarily learning a certain type of face. You know what I mean? Like, this is sort of breaking down simple forms and building up from them, even though, you know, he does sort of have a type, but it's like, this is generic enough for me where I could, you know, I can sort of put myself in it. Definitely he goes into the skull and whatever. And when I go into like a Hogarth book, I don't ever really try to replicate his rendering style, just because I feel like that's not really what I'm in this book for. I'm in the book for, the reason why I'm in this book is to understand the forms that he's trying to portray to me. You know, I'm not really trying to necessarily mimic his rendering style. Just understanding, like, even the simplified jawbone, right? The mandible. You know, this is like he says, like a horseshoe of the jaw. This is great, right? Because it's just showing me like the building blocks I have to put together for my head construction. And even if I don't fully take on everything that he's talking about in his book, I can remember something like this even when I carry it to a different book, or, you know, a different sort of method. I could just remember that horseshoe, because it's so simple and nice to draw that, you know, I could just put my heads together just from that jaw, from that simple jaw shape. I could put the rest together. But this is, I feel like it's an underrated book. Very underrated. I don't really hear a lot of people talking about it, and I feel like it's good. So yeah, Hogarth. Let me see how, 8 minutes. So I also seen this book on the internet also. And I'm doing this quickly because I actually want to start drawing, but I just want to sort of show some of the head drawing books that I have. Drawing the Head for Artists by Oliver Sen, right? I feel like this book is a lot more into, you know, more of a traditional style of portraiture. The only thing is, which isn't necessarily a gripe, but it's just something that, you know, I'm not really, it's not the medium I'm not really using, which is, this book is mostly based on charcoal. So if you actually want to work through this book, I feel like you can still work through it, but it is, all of the drawings and everything is going to be working with a vine and a little charcoal. So if that's something that you're really interested in, you know, working in charcoal, I feel like this is especially charcoal, which I've heard is a good transition into painting, you know, fine art painting, fine art portraiture, you know, just things like that. But I feel like with me trying to get into illustration, I'm more into the you know, the draftmanship with a pencil. Not really, you know, trying to work with charcoal too much. But this is great. I feel like this is great. This book is great for learning, obviously, the charcoal medium, but also there's black darks and lights. I feel like with a pencil, you're not going to get those darks and those lights like you would with charcoal. So I feel like this book is a great way to look at how someone would build up those darks with that charcoal, because you only have the charcoal. You're basically creating the forms with black, and everything that's lighter would basically be, either with a stump rubbed in or something. So you're basically working with the values. So I feel like this is a great book to look at if you are trying to apply a lot of those values, because the way he constructs is based around the shadow shapes. That's what it seems like, mostly a lot of construction, because there's a lot of construction lines you see. I think that would be foreshadow, right? So if you're, just keep that in mind going into this book. A lot of these, if you're looking at something like this thinking that you have to do all this, especially when you're trying to create something from imagination, I feel like this would be sort of impossible. You would sort of have to come up with a set system and be able to work from there. But this is someone looking at a reference and building their construction from them shadow shapes, from the shadow shapes that they see. So I think I just want to jump into actually drawing this. I'm gonna show one more book, right? I'm at 11 minutes, I'm going pretty fast. The Taco Point Character Drawing book, right? Now, this is more of a style that I guess I would like to go into. Not that I want to skip any of the other ones, but this isn't necessarily as, I feel like this book isn't really as instructive as like the Michael Hampton book, or, So I feel like I want to work through that, then maybe jump into this just to understand, just to practice like the form and things more. Because a lot of these illustrations, they leave out like a lot of lines. It's more in that anime style where there's less lines. So I feel like, especially when you go in a book, you want as many lines describing as many things as possible. Because I don't know what's going on. Say like even in his neck, I don't really know what's going on in his neck for that one line to even be there. Maybe that's a sternomastoid, indicating that. But, maybe that is just the sternomastoid going down to that collarbone, hyoid bone up in there somewhere, and then this is the Apple's atom. Things like that. But this is a book I probably want to go into just to get more of that, sort of try to understand more of that, like simplified, more anime style. But you don't want to skip the other books that are instructive, that will tell you, that might not be as stylistically nice as this or simple, but they'll break things down for you so you can come back and do a book like this and then be able to understand. All because these illustrations look simple, that doesn't mean that that there's less thought going on, or there's less knowledge that has to be had to simplify like this. It's not true. But this is also a good resource for head drawing. But I feel like this is after you more understand like what's going on with the face. And then before I actually start drawing, right, this is the last book. I know I said that with that, but this is Freehand Figure Drawing by David H. Ross. I feel like this is just a great book, just like if you want to get into more of that comic book style, right? But it's a little bit more instructive. But even something like this, right? He simplifies the skull shape into like this mannequin head, puts the features on, and then this is more of like the detail afterwards. So you would be constructing from this. You wouldn't be, necessarily worried about the details. You would be worried about the placement of the features before you put the detail on, right? So this book, I love it just because of how the crazy angles that you can see everything from, the ears, and then he has a cross contouring on the head. Haven't seen that in any other book really. Just that cross contouring of the forms. But in this book he has the head from all these crazy angles. right? And then there's descriptions of like, you know, what's going on, what you should be thinking about with the head going down, how the eye wraps around, so you understand the angle of the eye on this ball form, which is the eyeball. How the lids, how they wrap around that ball form, which, depending on what angle, which way they would wrap around. So I just love this book. Just like, even if you don't like the figure drawing, whatever in this book, you don't want to adopt the method, just looking at these, having these as reference, I feel like is great, because a lot of other books, they don't really have this amount of, angles, this amount of, slides. Especially, they'll show you the mannequin. He shows you the mannequin and the finished head. Then he gives you a description and shows you how the eye is supposed to wrap around. I feel like that's golden information, especially from an illustrator standpoint, Then he gives you the planar heads. I just feel like, just this whole section on heads, it's amazing right here. This whole section of the book is just, the book is pretty great when it comes to the figure, but it's more, simplifying. But yeah. So now I want to get into how I would actually think of drawing a head, because I feel like you shouldn't just always hold on to instructional drawing books to figure out what you want to do. I feel like you'll be a little lost if you're just looking in instructional art books, and then like, I don't really understand like my style or what I'm trying to do with art. I would say look into a book that you like the art in, and I like the art in Akira, right? And I bookmarked the page of a head in there. Not just a head, but just a portrait shot, right? I feel like this whole book is just full of them. But even with that, right? Look how this panel looks. This face is so, so simplified, and there's detail in it, but it's still simplified. And then just look at that chin area. It's like everything. It's like there's no chin there, right? So I sort of wanted to just sort of try to draw a breakdown, just because it's a lot of panels in this book. Like the artist draws all the heads, like especially when it's from a low angle, doesn't draw the chin. But that's a stylistic decision right there. Maybe the chin. Sometimes there's a chin, but it seems like there's only chins on older characters from under, even if you see right there. So that's what I'm saying. That's definitely an intentional thing. That's not because of a lack of knowledge. It's a stylistic choice. With the younger characters, the chin isn't drawn in. But with the older characters, the chin is drawn in. Right? So I just wanted to sort of break this down. Right? Keep it side to side. So this is, even just looking at how this head is, this is what I would think about when I'm drawing it, right? Let me make sure my pen works. First, I would draw a ball just to get that, just the ball of the cranium, right? Draw a line going down the direction that's going. The brow is going this way. So sort of wrap around. It's going straight down. And in this illustration, there's no chin. There's no jaw indicated. But I would think of it like this. So I would try to, I don't know where the nose is at. This, I would find where the chin is. Like it was around a third of the face, right? I'll find the brow, then the nose. And they should be 3 equal parts, right? And the chin looks like it's going up here, and it would sort of wrap around like that, right? And then there would be an underside right here. Underside like this. I would draw in the helix for the nose, at the top of the nose, right? The nose is a little shorter than I've drawn it. So we go here, right? Go here, And then we're seeing the underside of the nose. So it'll be something like that, right? Then we have a ball, like a flattened ball for the mouth. It's curving up this way. Then that chin is pretty straight, but it will be another like oval shape down here. Then the eye sockets. Then, you know, we were drawing both of these eye sockets like this. So curving around for the cheek, going down to the neck. So this is sort of what I would be thinking of when I'm trying to draw a head like this. It would be, then I would sort of curve it around. Like this is sort of the process I would go through even when thinking of a face like this. Even something that's stylized, you just understanding, you know, there's an underside to the face. There's a chin. It's like a ball for the head. You can even draw a center line for the ball of the mouth. Boom. Right, and the hairline probably be somewhere up here. You can also draw in a side plane to differentiate the front of the face from the side of the face, right? Like so. Then the ear will be between the nose and the brow ridge. So it'll probably be an ear right here. Then a cranium. Right there. Maybe something like that. Maybe it's a little small, little cranium, but I don't want to make it too big. Yeah, hairline, it would be sort of, you know, off the shot on top of the head. But even though this looks nothing like that style that's in Akira, I'm understanding that there are a lot of factors that are going on. It's not just drawing a line, it's understanding form in some sort of way. And you can, whichever way you understand that form, that will only improve. You know, you have to find a way personally that connects to you on describing this form, whether you're doing a Loomis method or you're doing something more like this from what I've been learning from that Michael Hampton book, or, you know, this would be like the cheekbone. You know, you're learning something more like this, which I learned in the Michael Hampton book, or, you know, I even have a book talking about the Riley method, which is, you know, that's also a different way that you can interpret, you know, something like this. The only thing that you should be thinking about is which way is key. I mean, which way do I like drawing the head? So many different construction methods. Everyone isn't really going to, you're not really going to be just attuned to every one. You're not going to, oh, all because other people say that this method is good, that means this is the one I have to use. You can pick and choose whichever one is more comfortable for you. So I'm going to stop right here because the video is about to be 25 minutes. But I'm probably going to draw more heads from this book, maybe in another video. But I just wanted to sort of briefly break that down. And maybe next time I'll talk more in depth about the Tom Fox book. But yeah, I'll see you guys in another video. Keep drawing, stay motivated. You know, see you next week.